there's so many people, so many young queer people who don't identify with binary gender and find it to be restrictive or limiting.
Hello, beautiful people. I'm your host, Letoi Williams, here for our newest edition of Queer Conversations. And our guest today is Jamie Grace Alexander, a local here in Baltimore City. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. I'm a queer trans femme. I'm a student at the University of Baltimore. I'm an activist in Baltimore's trans community, so I'm the community director of the Baltimore Transgender Alliance. And I'm a big old lesbian.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Tell our guests how you can be reached on social media.
Oh, you can reach me at, if you look up Jamie Grace Alexander on Instagram or Facebook, I'll be the first result.
Awesome. So let's get into some sizzling subjects. So my first question is, we know that Cardi B is super famous right now.
Yes.
She started off as a stripper, then landed on Love and Hip Hop, and now she's just amazing. So how do you feel about her rise to fame?
Wow, you're going straight for the gut.
Yeah, I got these questions.
I think that Cardi is a girl's girl, and I will always be rooting for her in that respect.
Okay.
And I love all of the people who are mad that a stripper has more coin than them. Stay mad. Stay mad.
Stay mad.
Stay mad. But I think that Cardi has been called in on anti-blackness and transphobia in a couple of instances and has resisted that calling it.
Okay.
So, like, I think that some people are like, Cardi B is only famous because she's light, and I'm like, you're probably right, but she's also pretty talented.
Why do you
so
think
there's
she's so,
duality to that.
Why do you think she's so relatable?
I think she's like, she says what other people are thinking. Yeah. So I think it's like that kind of, some people have really controlled personalities and some people don't. And I think that a lot of people want to be as like fuck as she is. Yeah. But they can't pull it off.
Yeah.
So they like live vicariously through her.
Absolutely. Now she did have some controversy recently where an old, I guess, Instagram post came up from 3 or 4 years ago where she was talking about she drugged men and robbed them.
And there was transphobia in that too. Like, I think that the end of that statement was like, I don't know. I think that, like, I've heard her called in on that, and she, like, I think it's fine to, like, I think that everybody, you know, if I dig far enough in your, like, history, like, there's dirt there, but, like, it's about the type of person that you are today and how you respond to that. So I think it's about, like, how can we have a dialogue about this? How can you grow, Cardi? Like, I want to see you flourish as a mother.
So there's some conversation that can be had about who you used to be and who you are today.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair that we, as people, can reconcile some of who we used to be to who we are today, because otherwise we'll throw everybody away.
Yeah, and disposability is definitely not something that I want to project onto anyone.
And then I want you to speak on that a little bit, because we live in a culture now where people get canceled, like at the drop of a dime. If you say something wrong or appear wrong in the media or you have the inappropriate response, immediately folks are ready to cancel you.
Well, I think that there's a phenomenon that happens in community where people lash out against the people that are closest in proximity to them, which is why I think there have been like stronger backlashes for people who are like, have one minority identity. Like, for example, there's like a bunch of like black men who are like, Bill Cosby wouldn't get this time if he was a white man. But basically what you're saying by saying that is like, black men should be able to rape women. And I'm like, no, nobody should be allowed to do that. It sucks that Bill Cosby is the only one being held accountable in that case, but I mean, somebody has to be.
Right.
And
everyone should be. Yeah. I mean, and that's really what it boils down to. We know that there are disparages in how much time is given to a Caucasian man who commits the same crime as an African. We all know that. That's not anything. Yeah, but by no means should anyone be given permission to, drug and rape anyone.
No.
No matter who you are.
No.
Just saying. Okay, so then my next question is about girl code. So recently in the news, there was this whole big spill about Khloe Kardashian and the boyfriend who was hitting on the sister's best friend, and everyone's mad at the girl in this situation. So is there a girl code where your friend's man or your friend's ex-man or your sister's ex-man is off limits?
I would say within a family, it's definitely. if
you're blood related, absolutely.
Kind of. I mean, I'm very fortunate to be incredibly gay, and my brother is. He was actually just prom king. I know. It's so funny. I went to prom with a bowl of chips, and my brother is prom king. So this is not a problem that I would face in my family, but certainly in queer community, my friends are always fucking with whoever, and there's nothing that I can really do to stop it. So, you know,
yeah,
it's just Baltimore. That's just how it works.
Yeah, the lesbian community is very small. It is very small, especially in Baltimore.
It's good, and I feel like once I get to a certain point of seriousness with somebody, it means that I introduce them not just to the bringing them home to my family is chosen family. So it's you are now in the community in a way that you weren't before. I'm co-signing you, which means that you're in with these, I don't know.
Yeah. So no screwing around with these people.
Yeah.
So then another story that I read recently was Justin Hernandez, which was famous on Love and Hip Hop. She has a daughter with Stevie J, and now she's dating. So how soon should you be dating as a single mom with kids?
I am not a single mother, so I'm not qualified to answer this question by any means.
Opinion. This is all opinions. These are all our opinions.
I guess. I don't know. I don't know how I would not have any free time for that sort of stuff. I feel like if I was in that situation, and that's where I would come from, it is when is this child at a point of stability enough that I can exactly, I'm not gonna have somebody over, gotta get up at 4 a.m. to birth the baby. That's ridiculous.
I love that.
I mean, if that's your life, go for it, but that's just not me. I'm just trying to put myself into this situation. I'm the single mother. Yeah, I'm there.
I get it. I totally get it. So, and then in more recent news, I Am Jazz.
Ooh.
Love her.
I love her. She's so sweet.
Yeah, and she just recently had gender reassignment.
Yes.
So we had the full completion done. Congratulations to her and her family. And she's planning to attend Harvard.
Wow.
Yes. So then the dilemma is she's wondering if her new classmates will recognize her from the show and the backlash that may come with that. So do you think that there should be some things in place to protect her in that type of situation?
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of visibility associated with it. And I get I mean, realistically, I'm a trans youth in this movement, with jazz. We're around the same age, but there are so many trans youth that are so visible in this movement, and that's really scary, especially considering who is very publicly against trans issues, and oftentimes the flack of that falls onto trans youth. And I know that Jazz has whatever happens, she's very prepared to deal with it. Jazz has dealt with some stuff. I mean, we all have. That is what you learn how to do by choosing to be public.
Completely out and.
But it's not just about being out. It's about you Google her name, you Google my name, and trans is it's I deliberately associate myself and my name and my identity with my transness, and that's my pride, but that's just a level of disclosure that some people aren't.
Yeah. And then also, there were some things that happened recently in Baltimore City, which is some hot topics. I mean, that's considered a sizzling subject. So there was some controversy at Johns Hopkins University recently, and I know you were on the front lines of all of that.
Yes.
So can you shed some light on what exactly happened as far as pushing folks to protest?
Sure. I guess backstory is Johns Hopkins University, like a lot of other Baltimore-based universities that have a lot of money, like these big institutions, like have Johns Hopkins specifically has private contracts with ICE, who like detains migrant children, and a lot of people resent the fact that they're supporting that with their money. And Johns Hopkins is also trying to have their own militarized police force,
Right.
Because I don't know, there's no good reason for that. But yeah, students at that school really responded in full force, doing a peaceful sit-in occupation of basically like the administrative building on the Johns Hopkins University campus, and they were there for a full month.
Wow.
So I think for the first 2 weeks of that month, I know that at some point the occupation escalated and they like locked the doors and wouldn't let administrators in because they weren't listening. So a lot of incredible direct action and peaceful protest was happening at Johns Hopkins University, and I was, fortunately, somebody reached out to me a little bit before police showed up to take people out of the building, and I could be there and advocate directly on behalf of a trans community member who was participating in the sit-in, who was actually jailed in the wrong facilities.
Oh, wow.
So part of me being there was supporting her, and then that support was put to the test when that actually happened, and I was like, yeah!
That's a good thing. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's what activism is all about. And as
Yeah.
a result of all of this, now they're ready to start negotiating and listening to the students.
Yeah, it's definitely been like a long uphill battle for those activists, and you see this a lot with just getting institutions to have a conversation with you.
Right.
You know, there's such unwillingness and stubbornness, but something that I really respect about those activists is that they held a lot of power through that sit-in, and that power was demonstrated through the really wide reach of that news story.
That's awesome. So power to the people. And
Absolutely.
activism works. Absolutely. It absolutely works.
Yeah, and I think that it's also about, I think another big reason why I wanted to be there is because I think that there are a lot of people who are losing the association between like anti-police or anti-establishment thinking and queer identity, where, you know, the very, very underground, the formation, the base of our people and our rights and our movement is anti-police values, because like police harassment is what inspired the Stonewall riots,
Right.
which led to the first Pride, and here we are 50 years later.
Yeah, still going through the exact same thing.
Yeah, but I think that people really need to internalize that and see that even today, police are against LGBT people and LGBT issues, and making sure that there are protections in there for them. So basically, if you're queer, you should be supporting this. You should be on that. You shouldn't want private police. Like, you should be there. Like, rock, sis, boomba. Like,
Right on the front line.
Exactly.
And with that, we will be right back with more from Grace. Give us a second. We gotta pay some bills. See you in a minute. Hello, everyone. with Quick Conversations and our lovely guest, Grace. So, Grace, I have some questions for you.
Yes.
And I hope they're not too personal. Okay. So, my first question is, how do you identify?
So many words. I think the three words that I use most succinctly are queer, trans, femme.
Okay.
So queer as in different, I've been really different my whole life. Trans as in moving from one gender in a different direction. And then femme, because being a woman is really important to me and being attracted to other women is really important to me.
Okay. So lesbian is in there somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Tacked under or
under the femme. Okay. It's under the femme.
I'm also under the femme.
Did y'all catch that? Did you catch that? Okay. Rewind this back to catch that.
Yeah.
But I like it. So I have to ask you like some really personal questions because I know that I saw you last year at Black Pride in an intergenerational discussion about LGBT and youth and how some folks identify and terms that are used now that weren't used years ago.
Absolutely.
How do we reconcile, or how have you been able to reconcile the differences in the older generation and the younger generation when it comes to LGBT youth and issues?
Right. Well, I think, that conversation was really valuable to me, and conversations between different LGBT communities are really, really necessary. But I think that really, for me, my front line is non-binary issues and getting people with different understandings of gender to understand my perspective as a non-binary person. And to some extent also working to understand their perspective. But I think it's really, really tough because I think that the circumstances that people are growing up now in are completely different than those of our queer ancestors. But I think that that's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, it's a good conversation.
I love this sort of conversation.
Awesome. So you did mention non-binary. So can you speak a little bit to the definition and what actually non-binary entails or means?
Right. I think that it's definitely like a queer youth angle. I think that there are so many people, so many young queer people who don't identify with binary gender and find it to be restrictive or limiting. Whereas I've seen a lot of, I guess, older queer community transgress from like within the gender. Like, I'm still a woman, I'm just a very different woman. Whereas like today's young people might be like, I'm not any of that. Which I feel like I tend to stray towards. Which is like, no matter how I'm presenting, it doesn't necessarily have a bearing on what I'm allowed to do or what I'm not allowed to do, which I feel like some people think is gender. Where they're like, okay, if you want to be a girl, then you have to shave your legs. And I'm like, I don't want to be anything.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're encountering people for the first time, are you direct with them when you're saying this is how I identify, or do you wait for them to ask? And really, what is the best approach?
I guess it depends. There's definitely different levels of disclosure that I have in different settings. In some settings, I might not want to have like a conversation or debate about my non-binary identity. I'm just like, use she, her pronouns. And in other settings, I'm like, I want to fight anybody who doesn't use they, them pronouns for me. But I think that that's really, picking your battles in that sense is a really big part of conserving my energy as a trans person moving through the world. Especially when so many people see that transness and then they like ask questions, they ask for labor, they ask like, how you doing? And I'm like, I have to protect myself.
Boundaries.
Absolutely.
So
gotta have boundaries.
What are some of the most intrusive things that people have asked you? I mean, because I get crazy questions and I present like this and I'm still like, Okay, hold up. Let's back up a little bit.
I think that like, yeah, I really, if I kept a catalog of the things that were said, I feel like I would go wild about it. But I think that more so for me, I think rather than the part of the experience that I don't like, the part of the experience that I do like is that I can enter multiple different settings and get gendered really differently, and that will affect not just the way that people call me, but the way that people treat me. And seeing that happen is really funny. Like, seeing gender move around me, like, I can, like, you know, get she, her, and then I, like, take off my jacket, and I get, like, they, them, and it's like, nothing changed! All that changed is, like, who raised you, I guess.
Yeah. I get that. So you mentioned disclosure.
Yeah.
How important is disclosure in a professional setting or in a personal setting?
Hugely important. I'm a really incredibly out person, and I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but for me, that's what freedom looks like, I guess, in this period of my life, where nobody can disparage me for being trans, like, because I'm so proud of that identity and because I am so public about it. And I think that being really public about it is, you know, taking authority over it and taking ownership of it for me. But I know that for a lot of people, like accessing a job where your employers understand they, them pronouns is still like miles and miles away for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you want to get like a minimum wage job at Dollar Tree, like it's probably easier if you present binary while you're at that job. And there are a lot of people living that reality, and I don't want to throw them under the bus or be like, I'm so cool for being non-binary. Because, you know, no matter where your disclosure level is at, your identity is still amazing and valid.
Yeah. So wherever you are, as long as you're comfortable in your space and can still be who you want to be, then that's what's most important.
Yeah, and I think that that's another thing about non-binary is that it's not just a look or a presentation. It's about not believing in gender to the point where you're not policing it for other people. Like, you're not telling people to shave their legs, you know, because you're not invested in the system of the gender binary. And I think that that's the real power that can come from that movement.
Has there been a lot of conflict in dating and being non-binary?
Not for me. I think just because of like who I'm attracted to. I think that I think that there's always like gender trouble in queer.
Gender trouble?
Yeah, right. I mean, I think that there's always like there's always like something to work out. But I definitely think, yeah, I guess for me, that's another aspect of my gender identity is I try to present in a way where it's like, I'm not attracted to men. Because I think that there are a lot of narratives that are forced onto trans women that like, you're trans to get with men or you're trans to like deceive men. And I'm like, none of that. None of that. So like, how can I signal to you that that is not what I'm doing at all? Like, how can I look as gay as possible? And that's where.
Well, we have a rainbow jumpsuit around here somewhere. You would look so good in that.
See, I just settled for the flannel. But you're right, I should step up again.
I mean, I'm just saying. We have flags, we have all kinds of stuff. You can look super, super, super gay.
That's amazing.
So then my other question is professionally. Now, you're fortunate enough to be in a space professionally where you can use they, them, you can use she, her, and not really have an issue. What advice or what resources would you give to a person who is non-binary and having that particular struggle on a professional level?
Yeah, I think that it's again about like weighing your options and choosing your battles. I think that particularly, I've seen, for me, there's a huge difference between a non-binary person working in a job that interfaces with customers or a job that doesn't.
Okay.
Because when you have like an internal staff, you can basically be like, I use they them pronouns. HR person, tell everyone in this department to use they them pronouns, but like I can't inform a customer my gender every time I'm checking somebody out. So I think that, especially for people in that latter situation, really having the self-talk to think about, do I want to correct people when they gender me wrong? How can I indicate to them before they start talking to me? Or do I just want to let people perceive what they perceive and then have like a gender validating experience afterward? But weighing those options to me is a really important part of not letting your workplace drain you as a non-binary person.
So we had another guest on our show who was talking about dysphoria and how his gender dysphoria was triggered by people misgendering him. So is that something that non-binary folks deal with as well?
Definitely. I think that dysphoria as an experience is about people's external perception of you not matching up with your internal perception of yourself. And I think that that's an experience that everyone can relate to, and especially non-binary people, because I think that a lot of people don't have the tools to understand my gender, which, sometimes can be frustrating, and sometimes can be dysphoria-inducing. But I think that an argument that I've seen that's really silly is that dysphoria is the reason that people are trans, and that dysphoria is about, not being binary enough. And I think it's larger than that. It's about your sense of self and the way that people are perceiving you, rather than I can experience dysphoria without wanting to be more of a woman. Does that make sense?
I think so. But I'm trying to understand, because what you said before, that a lot of folks are trans because of the dysphoria.
Right.
And that's what I thought. But that's not true.
Well, I think it's not true in all cases.
Okay.
And I think that that's like a way of pathologizing transness, where it's like, I diagnose you with dysphoria, and the solution is transness. Where it's like, no, not at all. Dysphoria is, an incident of me moving through the world.
Okay. I think I understand.
Yeah.
Do you understand? I hope so.
Yeah.
But if not, you can always comment on our post and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Don't forget to like and share.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, we were talking earlier about Gender X becoming available.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that a lot of activists have been working really hard to get people this X option on Maryland state IDs, which is like the first step in having Maryland kind of recognize non-binary gender. And there's still a lot of steps to go in that process. Like, you can't have an X on your passport, but you can have an X on your state ID if you so choose to. And that'll go into effect starting October, and is the direct result of a lot of non-binary people working really hard to get this available.
So October 2019,
yes.
If you get a state ID in the state of Maryland, you can, instead of choosing male or female, you can put gender X.
Yeah, so I think the way that I have always phrased this argument is, if the state of Maryland wants a letter to identify me, why not my blood type? Wouldn't that be wouldn't that be a more useful thing to put on the identification that maybe an EMT
is positive?
Yeah, but that's not,
Yeah, they're not gonna do that.
Yeah, but I mean, people make the argument that EMTs need to know your gender. Nobody needs to know my gender.
Now that argument I don't understand at all.
There's a lot of silly things that people say.
I mean, because if they're giving you life-saving treatment, would it matter if you're male or female?
You gonna give me CPR different? Like
exactly. Are you gonna compromise different? Like chest compressions are the exact same.
Right.
I don't understand that. That's reaching.
Yeah.
That's absolutely.
So I'm like,
reaching.
if that's your argument.
Yeah, then let's type. It absolutely would. Okay, so I wanted to ask you more about your personal life. So, but I don't want to be so intrusive as to, make you or anyone that you're dating or seeing uncomfortable. But my question is, when we decided to do the show, we wanted to talk about the life of. So that includes your personal, your professional, your activism, and the activities that you're involved in. So what I really want to know, has dating been difficult? Like, has it ever been a situation where you've disclosed and then now it's an issue, or people are pursuing you because of curiosity, or you know what I mean, things of that nature?
Yeah, I definitely think not pursuing men has taken me out of a lot of that, and I think that also being very public about my identity means that people know that about me before they get into business with me, hopefully. But yeah, I think that there are definitely challenges associated with it. But oftentimes for me, some of the greatest challenges come from myself. I think that it can be even we were talking earlier about dysphoria, and I think that different people's attraction to me can be dysphoric.
Really?
Yeah. I think especially, I was just out and these gay men were trying to hit me up, and very respectfully, but I was like, I don't like this. I don't. Please don't. Please don't. So I definitely think that there's a lot of sort of complicated aspects of that. And then I think that there are some women who I can compare myself to. But I think that that's also I feel always a consistent challenge of lesbian identities. Uplifting women and start comparing yourself to them.
Yeah.
Which is such a struggle, because
it really
you're taught to disparage yourself when you see another beautiful woman.
Exactly, as opposed to giving that other woman a compliment and still feeling like
and
I'm a light as
well. You said you wanted my personal life.
I do, but
here's my business. Let me tell you.
We're not making out with all of the lesbian women that I just want to be clear, I'm married.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do. And I feel and the reason I brought this up is not to highlight the issue. I want to point out that there are issues in dating with everyone. It doesn't matter if you're lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, non-binary, black, white, male, female. It really does not matter. There's always a challenge in dating. I just feel like a lot of times cisgender straight people tend to feel like we face particular things that they don't.
Right.
Which I believe is 100% not true.
Yeah, and I mean, to get into more specific, I'm really fortunate because I'm so in community. I feel like I meet a lot of people through community events and community engagement, but being on dating apps can be really hard as a trans or non-binary person, especially understanding that a lot of dating apps haven't had the option to be listed as a non-binary person.
I understand.
So basically, some dating apps, the framework, the way it works is if you are heterosexual, you will be shown men because you are a woman. And if you are a gay woman, then you will be shown, but it's I'm not binary. Who do I want to be shown to? Right. And that requires me to pick a gender. And I mean, some of that has been moved further along, but in 2015, I remember I would be on Tinder and me and consistently trans women would have their profiles reported and deactivated just for being trans. Because if you list yourself as a woman and you're put in a pool with heterosexual men, they're just reporting your page. And Tinder like didn't do anything to care about it until like last year or something. But
and I never even thought about that. But that would be a challenge, because now people are looking at your profile that you don't want to look at your profile.
And I think that that's another, like, people on dating apps are so, like, you have such a specific perception of the person that you want, and I feel like I will never be that expectation.
Right.
Which is like part of my like non-conformity, and like I'm not trying to be that for anyone.
So there's no apps for you.
I don't use them currently in my life. I don't really need them or want them. But yeah, I think that it's kind of nauseating to me. I do like the process of building a profile though. Like the curating aspect of it. Oh my gosh, when a friend
like pulling the pictures together.
Literally, when my friend is like scrolling on a dating app, I'm like, give me your phone. I'll like pick the best pictures. I'll fix it. Like, I'll make everyone love you. I promise.
So many hits.
I want to experience it vicariously, but I don't want to have the like monotonous experience of. Exactly. I don't like that. I don't want that. I just want to like build a nice portfolio dating resume and be like, here's my friend.
That is so cute. I do have one more question for you. What advice would you give your former self, like you 10 years ago? What piece of advice?
10 years ago? I think not to let myself be discouraged. I've always been really, really different, and I've always had really far out ideas, but I think that the setting that I grew up in wasn't, I mean, my close family was always encouraging of me, but I think that growing up in white suburbia was like, there was a lot of, I felt like I couldn't do it, just because like there wasn't as much encouragement for me, but I would definitely like tell myself to be my own encouragement. Like, I would have loved to, I know that like when I was 5 years old, I was like, I want to teach myself Swahili. And literally everyone in my environment was like, why would you ever want to know Swahili? Like, what would you even say to those people? And I'm like, I'm 5. I'm in 5th grade. Why are you discouraging me?
Right.
So I would say to that version of myself, I would be like, you learn Swahili, you do whatever weird shit comes to your mind.
Just be you.
Yeah, literally.
In the full sense of the word.
Yeah, but also be your own motivation. And that's definitely a skill that I've been building recently. It's really tough to be your own motivation.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we do need, and we shouldn't, but I know sometimes we do need outside validation.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit,
Absolutely.
Just to say, you know what, you did a good job.
I'm a big
Keep doing what you're doing.
I feel that.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
I love that.
Keep doing what you're doing. And on that note, we'll be right back. We gotta pay some bills. And I believe this week we have some street talk with our industry reporter, KK. Take a look.
Hey y'all, this your girl KK. I'm down here with Street Talk and my Lane's Thursday night event. Let's take it to the street, see what the people got to say. Alrighty, we're here with, what's your name?
Trey.
Trey. All right, Trey, how do you identify?
That's non-binary.
All right. So, are you single, taken, or in a situationship?
Taken.
You sure? Your mouth moved a little.
Yeah, taken.
Taken?
Yeah.
All right, happy?
Yeah, happy.
All right, that's all that matters. My man's here, it's taken, so nobody come for him here.
Pretty much.
All right. All right, so Vivian, would you have sex on the first date or no?
No. No.
Not at all.
No.
Why?
I don't do that. I gotta know you. I gotta make sure your vagina good, all that.
So you gonna wait a couple weeks or
I'm
months?
gonna wait a couple weeks. Cause I could wait a couple weeks because we could both get some test results within a couple weeks. So
Test
a couple
results
weeks.
Sound good.
Couple weeks.
All right, got you.
So yeah.
Quick conversations, y'all. Your name?
Charles,
All right, we have Charles here. How do you identify yourself?
as a gay black male.
What I
Homosexual.
like to hear. All right, y'all. So, when you have sex, do you prefer the lights on or lights off?
The lights off. I like it's a little mysterious, so just like a lot of touching and just like you don't know what's going on, you don't know where the mouth gonna go, so lights off.
All
Yeah,
right,
lights
so we're here with what's your name?
Shadow.
All right, Shadow. So, how do you identify?
Lesbian.
Lesbian. All right. So, I have a question for you. Would you date a trans person?
Yes, I would.
Yes, she would. All right. Why would you date a trans person?
Because they need love too.
I definitely agree with that answer. We can't leave them out there. You feel me? We all are one. We a family, right?
Yeah, they all part of us, so why not? If they identify as, female, then I'm fine with that. As long as she got splits, we good.
We good. Y'all heard it here on Street Talk. As long as she got splits.
And we are back here again with Grace. Thank you so much for coming out and participating with us. I truly appreciate you. And I loved having you on the show.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to our guests? And also give them your social media again.
Yeah. You can hit me up on Facebook or Instagram at Jamie Grace Alexander and keep up with my antics.
Your activism.
Antics. Yeah, I'm all over the place. Support grassroots activism and be gay. That's what I have to say.
Be gay or be queer. So once again, we'd like to thank you all for participating and coming out and watching our show. We are airing once a month on YouTube. Like, share, comment, talk about what's going on with Queer Conversations. Look out for us again next month as we discuss more heated topics, LGBTQ plus issues, and remember, we are changing the world one conversation at a time. Good night, everybody.